This episode of FineScale Modeler's new product rundown features Tamiya's Type 16, Dora Wings Early Bf 109, an interesting way to use your tablet or phone at the bench, Takom's Bergepanther, and Azur FrRom's CASA Aviocar.
New product rundown brought to you by HobbyZone USA, your source for hobby storage solutions, hard-to-find hobby tools, and aftermarket modeling needs.
Welcome to the New Product Rundown, FineScale Modeler's twice-monthly show where we show you what's inside some of the hottest kits and accessories. I'm Elizabeth Nash.
I'm Aaron Skinner. We've got a bunch of stuff to look at today, starting with Tamiya's nifty-looking Type 16 maneuver combat vehicle in 1/35th scale.
This wheeled tank destroyer began entering service with the Japanese Ground Self-Defense Force in 2017.
Yeah, it's relatively light compared to main battle tanks, which means it can be redeployed quickly to defend the outlying islands of Japan.
But its 105mm main gun packs a punch.
8 wheels means a complicated suspension, but in typical fashion, Tamiya breaks each of the 4 units into easy-to-build sections.
The axles are molded with the differentials and drive shafts.
The remainder of the suspension comprises wishbone arms, shock absorbers, brakes, and wheels. Vinyl tires with crisp tread and sidewall detail finish the wheels.
Clip-on tie rods pin on the front axles, and polycaps, trapped in the lower hull, leave the steering movable.
The rest of the hull comprises a top plate with sharply molded vents, handles, hatch outlines, and non-skid texture, sides with more vents and panel attachments, rear panel with the outline of a larger door, and front panel with recessed headlights.
The driver's hatch is separate, but does not appear posable. Also separate are the tools and tow cable.
Along with handles and panel edges, non-skid texture marks the top of the turret. It's separated from the lower plate by detailed sides with molded panels and a rear plate, to which is attached a finely molded bustle rack.
The main gun is mostly a single barrel with a separate muzzle and fume extractor.
It fits into a bracket inside the 2-part mantlet and should be movable.
Weapon sighting optics, smoke grenade launchers, antenna bases, and a .50 caliber machine gun finish the turret.
Hatches for the commander and loader are posable, and figures are provided to fill them.
Clear parts supply periscopes and lights, and there are masks to protect them during painting.
Decals and diagrams supply markings for 4 camouflage Type 16s, and there are color photos of a full-size vehicle for reference.
This cool-looking vehicle would be at home on display with Tamiya's recent Type 10 main battle tank, or with wheeled guns like the Centauro or Striker MGS. It looks like a fun build.
Now, there are a lot of Bf 109 kits in the world, but the early Juma-powered versions don't have nearly as much love.
With that in mind, let's take a look at Dora Wings 1/48th scale early Messerschmitt.
Now, this is marked as an A/B and has markings for fighters from the Legion Condor.
The fuselage halves are marked with fine recessed panel lines with rivets around the wing roots and lap joints at the base of the vertical stabilizer. Much of the engine is molded with the halves. It includes wiring.
The lower half of the wing is a single full-span part and incorporates the lower part of the nose.
The separate upper wing halves show fine panel lines and inspection covers. Each main gear bay is fitted with a single part for the walls, and there's some roof detail molded into the upper wing.
All of the control surfaces are separate, including the elevators, ailerons, flaps, leading edge slats, and the rudder, which has subtle stitching on the ribs.
Engine details include frames and other fixtures, as well as fine exhausts that fit into external ports. The rest of the cowl consists of a 2-part upper section, the chin radiator scoop with internal grille, and the upper nose with its distinctive step.
The broad 2-bladed prop has optional noses.
In addition to the floor, rear bulkhead, and sidewalls with structural and mechanical details, the cockpit features a seat, instrument panel, joystick and pedals, and control wheels.
The canopy sections are molded in thin clear plastic with recessed frame outlines. Masks are provided.
Resin parts include the main and tail wheels, optional gear doors, gun sight base, starter crank, and oil cooler under the port wing.
Petite photo etch parts provide the instrument panel, seat belt, cockpit details and controls, oleo scissors, fuselage front, and canopy controls. Printed film adds instruments to the panel.
Decals and color diagrams show markings for 4 aircraft, 2 A's and 2 B2s, all in Legion Condor insignia in Spain.
Another good-looking release from Dora Wings of a lesser-known subject.
The internet is an invaluable resource for modelers with thousands of references and photos at your fingertips.
But your workbench is not always the healthiest place for your tablet or cell phone to hang around.
Our sponsor, HobbyZone USA, sent us a neat solution to that problem in the form of its multimedia module.
As with other HobbyZone modules, this one is designed to fit together with others using magnets.
Built with sturdy MDF, the module has brackets that can adjust to hold a device of any size up to 9.5 inches.
The rake of the display is also adjustable.
And there's a hole in the back panel to run a power cable.
It's a nice way to keep your references and entertainment close, but up and away from their paint and glue.
Takom is getting plenty of mileage out of its Panthers, but this 1/35th scale Bergepanther is especially welcome.
Yeah, it's the first all-new kit of this later version of the armored recovery vehicle built on the Panther since Italer's.
Initial Bergepanthers built on Panther Ds were the tank minus the turret plus a crane.
This is the Bergepanther Ausf A version, which was specially built with a modified upper hull to accommodate the recovery vehicle and a spade at the back.
As expected, this kit shares parts with Takom's Panther gun tanks, including road wheels with sharp tire and hub detail, the torsion bars, road wheel arms, idlers, and drive sprockets, Lincoln length tracks, tools and final drive housing, as well as power plant components such as the engine with associated plumbing, wiring, and drive shafts, transmission, brakes, conduits, and cooling systems. Some parts remain the same, like the fender skirts and engine hatch, but many of the original parts unneeded for the Bergepanther are omitted.
The crucial new parts start with the upper hull that has large cutouts for the winch and work platform and the open driver's position. The armor has a subtle rolled metal texture.
The sponson bases and firewall remain largely the same, but the interfaces of the hull sides have been modified to show different wiring and fixture mounts, and the frame behind the driver's position is now a deeper bulkhead. Fuel tanks still occupy the sponsons at the back, but there are additional tanks, as well as what appear to be batteries in the fighting compartment.
In place of the larger floor covering extra rounds with a cutout for the turret basket, the Bergepanther has small platforms that fit around the 40-ton winch comprising a motor, spools, attached to large gears that interlock with a small gear.
Those are designed to be movable and pull a nylon cable around pulleys and a large spool. The other end goes through a set of rollers on the back deck to a towing shackle.
Outer casings, brakes, and covers keep everything together.
The gantry comprises an upright with arm and support with molded chain, or optionally with a separate arm that can be detailed with a plastic piece and metal chain. Separate supports are provided.
Optionally, you can model the gantry stowed with the upright, arm, and supports attached to the sides of the box on the hull.
The box has a floor with wood grain and handles, metal look lower sides, and posable upper section with more wood grain. 2 sizes of canvas cover are provided to cover the driver's compartment.
The one-piece spade, yep, those ejector pin marks will need to come off, with its multiple part mount can be posed up for travel or down for use.
Jigs help position the tracks, a small fret gives engine screens for the deck intakes, and braided copper wire is provided for tow cables.
A small decal sheet provides markings for 4 Bergepanthers.
As with Takom's other Panther kits, there's a lot here.
But based on what we've seen with the others when reviewed, this should go together with few problems.
And for those of you who are interested, Takom has also released the earlier Ausf D version with a blanked over turret ring and without the winch or spade.
Finally, here's Azur FrRom's 1/72nd scale CASA C212 Aviocar, an aircraft I never really expected to see in kit form.
More than 500 of the Spanish-designed short takeoff and landing transport have been built since 1971.
Yeah, and it's still in production in Indonesia today.
Over the years, both military and commercial operators have used the twin turboprop,
including the U.S. Army's Special Operations Command, which calls it the C-41A and employs it in a number of roles.
Since Azur FrRom specializes in French and related subjects, this kit features a C-212 in French military and civil markings, including 2 Air Force test aircraft and aircraft with fictional Russian markings it wore in the James Bond movie The World Is Not Enough, and a nifty gray and gray livery on a CASA operated by CAE Aviation, a company that trains pilots.
Azur FrRom partners with Special Hobby, and the C212 has been released under that branding too. And looking at the parts, this is a peach of a kit characterized by terrific moldings and plenty of options.
The major airframe parts have even, if a little wide, recessed panel lines.
Pay attention to the instructions as they are split into 2 sections, depending on which marking option you choose. Only one uses the fuselage as molded, the others have a longer nose requiring surgery to the kit parts along clearly marked lines. 4 radome options are provided beyond the all-new front fuselage, but only one is called for here.
Multiple styles of forward fuselage inserts account for different door, window, and reinforcing strips. The kit uses just 4 of the 12.
Although the rear loading ramp is molded in place, the rear cabin doors are separate, and sharply molded clear parts include cabin windows along with windshield and lights. There's nothing to see in the rear section.
The cockpit, on the other hand, features a floor with side and center consoles and pedals, back wall, seats, control yokes, and instrument panel. Only one of these is called for here.
Nicely molded gear legs terminate with decent wheels. Optional sponsons account for differences between aircraft.
A full span upper wing half sets the neutral wing angle, and the lower wings get separate flap actuator fairings. There are optional winglets.
The rudder and elevators are separate, and optional horizontal stabilizers account for differences between aircraft.
Engine nacelles have one-piece fronts with thin intake lips and four-blade props with separate spinners.
A small photo etch fret has antennas and windshield wipers.
Unlike some early special hobby kits, the parts have molded locators and fine sprue attachments.
There's a lot to like in Azur FrRom C212, and the possibilities in the kit are endless.
Look for a full build review of it, the Type 16, Bf 109, and Bergepanther in upcoming issues of FineScale Modeler magazine.
And you can see more new products in the September issue on sale now.
Thanks for visiting FineScale.com. I'm Elizabeth Nash.
And I, sadly for you all out there, am not.
Sorry. Toe cables. Little interested. Your line.